Why are you here? My sister asked loudly as I stepped into the kitchen. Didn't you get the vibe this wasn't your year? I just smiled, walked out without saying a word. 30 minutes later, their grocery order was cancelled. Netflix gone. Uber Eats blocked. My sister messaged, none of the cards are working. I smiled. Replied. I should have known the moment I stepped into that kitchen. Melanie didn't even look up from her overpriced cappuccino. Why are you here? She said flatly, then louder, like she was performing for an invisible audience. Didn't you get the vibe this wasn't your year? Mom laughed faintly from the living room. I stood there, holding a pecan pie I'd made from scratch. I didn't say anything, just smiled, turned around, and walked out the front door without another word. I didn't slam the door for effect, I just let it close the way things do when they've been used too many times. 30 minutes later, the messages started. Jack, the grocery order got cancelled. That was from Melanie. She always acted like she couldn't survive without oat milk and organic seaweed snacks. Then, Dad, hey, Netflix login's not working. Can you check it? Melanie again, Uber Eats isn't going through. Keep saying the card was declined. I waited until they sent one more. Mom's voice note, all soft and puzzled, honey, the Amazon account saying payment failed. Did something happen with your card? I replied to Melanie. Just 2 words, ask Dad. Silence for a bit. Then she blew up the family group chat. Wait, you canceled everything? Are you serious? Then this is so petty. And finally, this is why people don't like you, Jack. That was her favorite line. She used it every time I said no, every time I made things inconvenient. See, what they didn't know, or didn't care to notice, was that they'd been leeching off me for years. Quietly, automatically. Hulu, Netflix, HBO, Uber, DoorDash, Prime, all linked to my cards, my passwords, my accounts. They even used my Apple ID to rent movies. I was their silent benefactor. And they treated me like a tech support intern who didn't know when to leave. This wasn't about subscriptions, this was about respect, or lack of it. Last fall, when Melanie called me crying about losing $3,000 on some shady NFT project, I paid off her credit card bill without hesitation. Dad's laptop died during tax season, and I overnighted him a new one. Mom's boutique trip to Miami? Yeah, that was on my Southwest points. They thanked me, sure, but it was always temporary, like I was expected to pick up after their messes with no questions asked. And the second I stopped, they called it betrayal. You're being dramatic. You're trying to punish us. You need therapy. No, what I needed was a break. And they gave it to me without realizing it. When Melanie said what she said, that was the final straw. The audacity in her voice, the way she looked through me like I was some distant cousin crashing the holidays, it made everything suddenly clear. So I cut the cord. All of them. Passwords changed, cards removed, accounts closed, even the shared family calendar gone. Dad left me a voicemail that night. Look, I don't know what this is about, but you need to grow up. You think you're so important because you make a little money. A little money. That's what he called the 6 figures I'd made freelancing the past 2 years that quietly paid off Mom's medical bills and kept the fridge full every time they forgot to go shopping. But here's where it started to turn. Because the next day, my cousin Luke messaged me. Dude, what the hell happened? Your mom told Aunt Sharon, you've been mooching off them and caused a scene. That's when I realized they weren't just mad, I was becoming the villain in the story they were rewriting, and they weren't going to stop. But neither was I. The lie spread faster than I expected. By noon the next day, I was getting texts from cousins I hadn't heard from in months. Hey, man. Everything okay with your folks? Heard there was some kind of incident. Apparently, my parents had told everyone I showed up to the house uninvited, started yelling in the kitchen, and stormed out when they asked me to be respectful. Melanie added that I'd been unstable lately. He's always had a problem with authority, she told our Uncle Doug during brunch the next day. It would have been funny if it wasn't so calculated. I didn't defend myself immediately. I waited. People like my family count on that. They count on silence. They spin a version first, and by the time you tell the truth, it sounds like an excuse. But I wasn't going to play defense anymore. So I sent a single text to our extended family chat. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I brought a homemade pie, was mocked in front of my parents, and left without a word. Then I canceled all the services I've been paying for silently for the last 6 years. I'll let you decide what that says about me. Within minutes, Luke called. Then Sarah, my cousin from Portland. Even Uncle Mike texted me saying, that's pretty messed up. Didn't know you were the one paying for all that. Truth travels slower, but it lands harder. That night, Melanie called again. I picked up this time. I wanted to hear it. She didn't ask how I was. She went straight for it. What the hell was that? You're dragging our family drama in front of the whole extended group now. I asked her if anything I said was a lie. She pivoted. You're trying to make us look bad. I told her they didn't need my help with that. That's when the real venom came out. She started picking apart everything I'd done for them, like it didn't matter. Said I never gave from the heart. That I just wanted to feel needed. That I liked having power over them. That hit harder than I expected because maybe I did want to be needed. But what was wrong with that? Was it worse than being used and discarded the moment you stopped serving a purpose? Mom messaged me later that evening. Said she didn't appreciate me airing private matters to the family. I asked her how private it was when Melanie had already told half of them a fabricated version. Then she sent a line that did it. This is why we never let you handle things. You always make it about yourself. I stared at the screen for a while. That line didn't just come from nowhere. It was something she believed, maybe had always believed. So, I screenshotted everything. Every transfer, every subscription receipt, every bank charge with their name on it. Years of silent help. I dropped it into the group chat. No caption, just facts. They didn't reply, but Luke did. Bro, this is unreal. You've been doing all this for them. Then Sarah, you were literally keeping their lives running. And that's when the tide started turning. The very next morning, I woke up to see Melanie had left the group chat. Then Mom, then Dad. But the damage was done. Not to me this time, I was fine. But to the image they'd spent years crafting, where they were the noble, misunderstood parents, and I was the difficult one who couldn't just be normal. Only now people were asking questions they couldn't answer. And I was just getting started. I didn't expect them to go quiet. Not really. Silence was never their weapon. It was their waiting room. A space to huddle, regroup, craft a new version of the story before unleashing it again. I'd seen this routine play out dozens of times growing up. Some neighbor wrongs them. Some cashier disrespects them. Some cousin stops talking to them. Every time they became the martyrs in their own rewritten script, they were always the victims. Only this time, the script wasn't working. Too many people had seen the receipts. Too many had started connecting the dots. But I knew something was coming. It always did. And sure enough, 4 days later, I got a text from Aunt Sharon. Your mom's been telling everyone you showed up high. Said you threatened Melanie. I just stared at my screen. It was bold. The lie, I mean. But what shocked me more was how quickly they'd escalated to character assassination, like none of what I'd done for them even existed anymore. I replied to Sharon with just one sentence, ask her why I paid for her roof last year. I wasn't shocked. Not really. I was just tired. I screenshotted the entire thread, sent it to my lawyer, not because I wanted revenge, because Melanie had crossed the line from manipulation to defamation, and I wasn't going to let her drag my name into her soap opera to salvage her own ego. The next day, Sarah called me, furious. She's messaging people directly now, she said, telling them you're dangerous, that you forged a loan and made it look like she did it. She had sent that to multiple family members. One of them, our cousin Jenna, pushed back, asked Melanie why my name and address were on the application, why the loan payments were going to her account. Melanie replied, he hacked my email. That's when I realized they weren't just lashing out, they were spiraling, and they'd drag anyone down to keep from drowning. But here's where it got weird. Eric, Melanie's ex, messaged me again. I hadn't heard from him since he sent me those screenshots of their old texts. This time he wanted to meet. We got coffee the next day. He looked different, older, tired, like he hadn't slept much since 2019, but what he gave me made my stomach turn. A USB drive, he said. I should have deleted this years ago, but something told me not to. It had audio recordings from their apartment when they were still together. Melanie talking to Mom, laughing about how easy it was to get Jack to pay for things as long as they threw in a few compliments, joking about how even his guilt has a credit limit. Then one line from my mom, if he ever turns on us, we bury him. We make sure no one believes a word he says. I didn't even know what to feel. Anger, sure, but more than that, just a deep, aching confirmation. I hadn't imagined it. I wasn't being too sensitive. They planned this, cultivated it, played roles in their heads for years. I sent a few of the recordings to Luke and Sarah. I didn't even need to say anything. They both called within the hour. Jack, Sarah said, they were never going to stop. You get that now, right? Yeah, I got it. I filed a formal complaint through my lawyer. Defamation, loan fraud, and a restraining order in progress. I sent an official cease and desist to Melanie's last known address. 2 days later, I got a letter. It was handwritten from my father. No return address, just a few crumpled pages in the same stiff, angry handwriting I'd learned to decode as a kid. He didn't apologize. He didn't acknowledge anything. He just wrote, "You've humiliated your family. We raised you, and this is how you repay us? You've made your choice. You are no longer part of this family. We won't speak of you again." There was something final about it, like they thought they were the ones cutting me off, like they still believed they had that power. But here's what they didn't know. That morning, I transferred the last of my saved documents into a vault and handed access to my lawyer. I changed my number. Changed my email. I removed every digital trace of them. Blocked numbers, emails, social accounts, everything. Then I made a decision I hadn't made before. I sent a message to the relatives who had stuck by me. Just a few lines, I'm stepping away from this family. If you ever need me, I'm here. But I'm done pretending people like that have any claim to me. The responses were quiet, respectful. No one blamed me because, at this point, No one believed their version anymore. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. It ended with a message. No phone call, no confrontation, no apology, just a screenshot from Melanie sent to my new number, one she had clearly gone out of her way to get. The image was a group chat between her, my parents, and 3 of their longtime friends who used to nod along in agreement whenever my mom complained about how difficult Jack had always been. The caption read, "We are no longer your family." That was it. 5 words, bold and final, like they were cutting off a diseased limb, like they were doing me the favor. I stared at it for a minute, then another. Then put the phone down and waited for a feeling that never came. No grief, no regret, no urge to call back and fight for something I'd spent years holding on to with bloodied hands. I just sat there in my parked car outside a UPS store, holding a coffee that had gone cold, and realized something simple and terrifying: they never were my family. Not in the way that words should mean something. A family doesn't keep a running tally of your failures while spending your money in silence. A family doesn't mock your generosity in private and accuse you of being ungrateful in public. A family doesn't threaten to bury you the moment you stop playing along. I'd held on to the idea of them longer than I should have, thinking that somewhere underneath the manipulation and guilt, there had to be love. But it wasn't love. It was ownership. And I had finally walked off the shelf. The legal side had wrapped up faster than expected. Melanie didn't want to take the risk of facing charges for forgery. My lawyer negotiated a settlement. The money was repaid quietly, probably by my parents behind the scenes. No apology came with it, just a dry note from her lawyer: "My client agrees to the terms." Not even my name. That was the moment I knew I'd been a transaction to them, a reliable account number, a backup emergency contact, a name they filled in when they needed things to look stable. I wasn't their son. I was their safety net, and I'd cut every thread. They tried damage control, of course. Even after the Facebook group crumbled after Sarah posted voice notes of Melanie joking about milking Jack's guilt, they kept the whisper campaign alive. They told people I was mentally unstable, said I was being controlled by outsiders, that I'd joined some kind of anti-family cult, that therapy had poisoned me. Luke sent me screenshots. One of their old friends commented, "Isn't he the one who bought you that car?" on a thread where Melanie was painting me as violent. The silence that followed said more than any defense I could have offered. And still, they couldn't stop. 2 weeks after the "we are no longer your family" message, Dad left a voicemail from a blocked number: "Whatever lies you're telling, it ends now. We've been good to you. You owe us more than this." I played it once, then deleted it, because I didn't owe them a damn thing. Not the thousands I spent. Not the years I lost trying to earn affection. Not the nights I stayed awake wondering why love felt like a performance. I changed my number again. This time, I didn't send it to anyone except Sarah, Luke, and 3 friends who'd seen the whole thing unravel from the start. I updated my passwords, my address, my emergency contacts. I erased them from every place they once had access to. No more ties, no more leverage, no more coming back. And it was quiet. Painfully, beautifully quiet. For the first time, I spent my birthday alone by choice. No performative texts, no passive-aggressive voicemails, just me, a hike in the woods, a pizza I actually liked, a glass of wine, and the silence I'd earned. People ask me now if I regret it. If there's ever a part of me that wants to fix things. And I tell them this: you don't fix poison. You don't salvage fire-damaged wreckage and try to live in it again. You walk away. You build something new. And maybe it's smaller. Maybe it's lonelier at first, but at least it's yours. They sent their message. So, here's mine: I am no longer your son. And that's the first honest thing this family has ever said. That was the beginning of the unraveling. That Sunday, they had their usual extended family lunch. Not at our house, at Aunt Rhonda's. The guest list was the same as always: cousins, uncles, kids playing tag outside. Cheap folding tables lined with potluck dishes no one actually wanted. I wasn't invited. I hadn't been for years unless they needed me to fix their Wi-Fi or front the tab for catering. But I heard what happened. Sarah confronted Melanie in front of everyone. "You told us Jack threatened you," she said. "But he sent screenshots. He's been paying for your stuff for years. Why would you lie?" Melanie didn't even flinch, apparently. Just snapped back with, "Because he's toxic. You all think he's so noble, but he's just manipulative. He does these things so he can hold it over us." Then she dropped the sentence that changed everything: "We took him in when no one else wanted him." And that stopped the whole room cold. See, that wasn't just cruel. That was revealing because it wasn't true. I'm their biological son, their firstborn. I wasn't adopted. I wasn't a cousin from a broken home. I was theirs. And yet, somehow, somewhere in their minds, I'd been rewritten into this burden they were graciously tolerating. Sarah told me later that you could hear a fork drop after Melanie said it. Then someone, maybe Luke, asked, "Wait, what does that mean? He's your brother." Melanie tried to laugh it off. Said it was a figure of speech, but it wasn't. Not really. It was the first honest thing she'd said in years because they'd always treated me like I owed them for existing. When I was 14, Dad told me I should be grateful they didn't send me to boarding school. At 19, after I moved out, Mom cried and said I abandoned the family. At 25, when I got a decent job, they asked how much I was making before they asked if I was happy. I thought that was normal. I thought family guilt was just part of being close. But it wasn't closeness. It was control. And now they were losing it. After that lunch, Luke called me. They're falling apart, man. No one's buying it anymore. Melanie looked like she was trying to dig herself out with a spoon. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. I was finally learning the power of stepping back and letting the truth stand on its own. Then the next wave hit. Mom sent me an email. Subject line, "You've done enough damage." It was long, rambling. She talked about Dad's health, about how Melanie was emotionally fragile, how I had embarrassed the family, turned people against them, ruined relationships. Then tucked in the middle, a sentence that said more than she probably meant, "This is what we get for letting you feel important." That was it. That was the sentence that flipped the switch for me, because that's what it had always been about: control, keeping me in my place, reminding me I was only valuable if I stayed quiet, stayed useful, stayed beneath them. I didn't reply. Not to her, not to Melanie, not to Dad, who started calling again, leaving voicemails pretending like nothing had happened. Instead, I updated the shared drive, added more files, more receipts, more years of silence and sacrifice. Then, I granted access to every single family member, let them see it all. I thought that was the end of it. I figured once the lies collapsed and the truth spread, they'd retreat, lick their wounds, maybe even stay quiet for good. But that wasn't how they operated. My family didn't process consequences. They regrouped and found new ways to frame the narrative. A few days after I gave everyone access to the shared drive, I got a call from an unknown number. It was my mother's voice. She was calling from a burner phone. "You've gone too far," she said. "We're cutting ties. You're not welcome in this family anymore." And then, as if to really drive the nail in, she added, "Don't come crawling back when things fall apart." I hung up without responding. That evening, Melanie posted on Facebook. She never used Facebook for anything but tagging herself at overpriced brunches. But this post was different. It was a photo of her with Mom and Dad captioned, "Some people destroy families to feel powerful, not us. Love always wins." I didn't even have to say anything. Within an hour, Sarah commented, "Is that before or after he paid your rent 3 times?" Then Luke dropped a screenshot from the shared drive, a payment confirmation to Melanie's landlord for $2,800. They deleted the post, but not before it was screenshotted. Not before others saw it. Not before it backfired. Here's where it got weird. The next morning, I got an email from Melanie's ex-boyfriend, Eric. We never talked much. He was around for a few years, quiet guy, bit of a pushover. He reached out with a short message, "I saw the stuff you posted. Just wanted to say, I believe you. I've seen how they are. I thought it was me." We exchanged a few messages. Then he sent me something I wasn't expecting. Screenshots from years ago. Conversations with Melanie and my mother. Plans they had made. Plans to convince other family members I was mentally unstable if I ever tried to turn people against them. I read them twice. It was all there, mocking my anxiety, plotting how to make me seem unhinged, laughing about how they could always twist it if needed. There was even a line from Mom, "Jack's the kind of person who would self-destruct just to get attention. If he ever flips out, we tell people he's having an episode." I forwarded it to Sarah and Luke. I didn't need to say anything. Sarah called me immediately. "Jack, that's sociopathic. That's not normal dysfunction. That's calculated." I nodded even though she couldn't see me. It wasn't just that they were cruel. It was that they planned the cruelty. Still, nothing prepared me for what came next. 2 nights later, I got a call from a lawyer. He said he represented a small firm in town and wanted to verify an address. My name had been listed as a point of contact for an application Melanie filed for a personal loan. I said I hadn't co-signed anything. He paused, said my name and signature were on the form. She forged my name. She forged my signature. The lawyer said he'd send the documents for verification. And he did. And sure enough, there it was, a perfect copy of my name on a dotted line for a $10,000 personal loan from 6 months ago. I stared at it for 10 minutes, not because I was surprised, but because I finally understood how far they were willing to go. I forwarded the documents to my lawyer the next morning. Then I pressed the button that I should have pressed years ago. I blocked them. All of them. Mom, Dad, Melanie, every number, every account, every email. I changed my phone number. Transferred the last remaining shared account to a blank credit card and shut it down. The only thing left tying us together was blood. And that never meant much to them anyway. I thought there'd be relief. There was. But more than that, there was silence. And this time, it was mine. The silence didn't last. 3 days passed. For the first time in maybe a decade, I wasn't being used, manipulated, guilt-tripped, or gaslit. No texts, no voicemails, no sudden Venmo requests labeled emergency that always turned out to be for a sushi dinner or overpriced throw pillows. I let myself think, just for a moment, that maybe they'd accepted it. Maybe this was it. Then came the LinkedIn message. It was from Carla, a distant cousin on my dad's side. We'd spoken once, maybe twice. She messaged me with a screenshot and a line that read, "Didn't know what this was about until I saw your name. You might want to see this." It was a private Facebook group Melanie had created, Family First, Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. A whole community centered around her being the survivor of my so-called toxic behavior. She posted long, melodramatic paragraphs about growing up under the shadow of a controlling, angry brother who twisted reality and who cut our parents off to punish them. It read like a bad self-help blog post wrapped in victim cosplay. The kicker? My mother had commented under it, "We always knew Jack had something wrong. We tried therapy. We tried love. But you can't fix someone who enjoys breaking things."